All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er recap as we recap everything that happened down in 49er land on this Thursday, December the 4th. And of course, 49ers having the bye week, so there's not a lot of news in Niner land. But of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. They've got a third location opening in Petaluma. Join us at Pig and a Pickle on December 7th, this Sunday, for the Krug Show meet and greet. We'll be there all day watching football, having some barbecue, and hanging out. So stop by and say hello. All right, let's get to all the headlines from the day in Ninerland. Now, the first one is that Shelby Harris is now elaborating on the accusations against Jauan Jennings. Now, Shelby Harris and Jennings, went nose to nose in the game over the weekend. In the post game, Harris had strong words for Jennings. He said, I see why he got punched in the nuts, because he said some things that you should not say to another man ever. This is Harris after the game in the Browns locker room referencing, the previous game when Trayvon Moreg of the Panthers struck Jennings in the nuts. Jennings later retaliated after the game and was subsequently fined. The NFL suspended Morrig for 1 game without pay, and they fined Jennings over $12,000. And then Shelby Harris added, "I'm surprised nobody has punched him in the jaw yet." So we knew there was more coming, and sure enough, there is. So Shelby Harris went on the Were the Harrises, a Guerrilla Sports podcast, and he expanded on the issue, and he said that JJ crossed a serious line. And here's the quote. He says, "I think the biggest thing that happened is that multiple people in that instance had a couple of issues with things that he was saying." Harris explained. "For me, I don't care about trash talk. You can say whatever the hell you want to, but usually when we're inside those white lines, people's families, people's wives, people's children are off limits." So he went on to say, "The way I look at that stuff is you can only say that type of stuff on the football field, because if I retaliate, I lose money. If I do anything about that, my team gets punished. But if you do that on the street, I'll smack the S out of you." According to Harris, even the boldest trash talkers typically avoid mentioning another player's family, suggesting that Jennings violated this unwritten rule. He said, "But the minute you bring up a man's family, bring up a man's wife, bring up a man's kids, any type of sexually explicit thing when it comes to a man's wife and family, you're going to have a problem," Harris said. So, Shanahan and Lynch both defended Jennings this week. Shanahan said he had not heard the exact comments that caused the reaction from Shelby Harris. He acknowledged that he spoke with Jennings and that he didn't feel like Jennings in any way crossed a line. And then he said, "Until I do, I don't have much of an opinion on it," Shanahan said. "That's just trash talk between a couple of people out on the field, and I kind of leave it at that." John Lynch kind of compared it to Draymond Green crossing the line. So he doesn't think anything was terrible about what was said. But that is the latest. The latest is Shelby Harris is still talking about Jauan Jennings. All right, let's get to some of the other Niner news of today. Curtis Robinson. Congratulations to Curtis Robinson. He's been named the 49ers nominee for the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. He was the Niners nominee last year for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. Couple other notes. Trey McBride yesterday was asked, "Who are your top 5 tight ends?" And he said, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Tucker Kraft, Brock Bowers, and Tyler Warren. Those are good answers. Those are all great players, except, he didn't say George Kittle, and Kittle's probably better than all of them. And today, McBride was like, "Oh, man, I forgot Kittle, and now I'm getting raked." We should tell you that these 49er reports, practice reports, and there's no practice today, but this is essentially a practice report, are brought to you by our friends at Plank, the 50,000 square foot entertainment eatery at Jack London Square in Oakland. Plank just opened the Hub, a brand new sports viewing space with a massive 30-foot media wall. They've got over 70 TVs. It's the ultimate spot to watch every game. Enjoy incredible food, specialty cocktails, and their huge 15,000 square foot outdoor beer garden. They got about 30 beers on tap. They've got bowling, bocce, arcade games. If you're a Krug Show listener, you get 15% off now through the end of the year. Just mention that I sent you, and they will take care of you. And check out plankoakland.com. It's a great spot. Plankoakland.com. It's a great place for you to host your holiday party for friends, family, maybe you're even your entire team at work. Check them out. They do group functions as well. Plankoakland.com. Once again, that's plankoakland.com. All right, a few more Niner notes. David Lombardi tweeted today that the 49ers asked for wide receiver George Pickens from the Steelers in any trade involving Brandon Ayuk in the 24 trade talks between the Niners and the Steelers. I don't know if that's true or if he's where he got that, but not surprising. Not surprising. And not surprising that the Steelers said no. Of course, they eventually traded Pickens to the Cowboys. One guy who's free today that I think the Niners ought to take a look at is Darnell Savage, the NFL veteran safety who's always been one of the better coverage safeties in the game, has requested and been granted his release from the Washington Commanders. The Commanders activated ex-Niner Drake Jackson from the injured reserve and released Darnell Savage at his request. So, man, Savage is a really good coverage safety. I would definitely be interested in Darnell Savage, especially if he can still run. Because he's a good coverage safety, and you can never have enough good coverage players. Brandon Ayuk, according to the NFL Network, they believe that the Niners and Ayuk are headed for a divorce. The NFL Network reported that the voiding the guarantees by the Niners, of Ayuk's guarantees is a preemptive move to a parting of the ways in the offseason. Given how both Shanahan and Lynch are approaching the situation, it doesn't sound like Ayuk will play another down in a 49ers jersey. Now, I would think that is clear cut to everybody, but man, you look at those quotes from Lynch and Shanahan, they sound very favorable. They sound like they'd like to have him back. I don't know why they're saying that. Maybe there's a split opinion in the Niners organization about how to proceed with Ayuk, but according to the NFL Network, Ayuk's not going to play for the Niners anymore. The 49ers, by the way, are currently favored to win every game that's left on their schedule. So all these people are like, the Niners, they're not going to run the table. Well, really, they're favored in all these games. They're 12 and a half point favorites over Tennessee at Levi's next Sunday. They are a 3-point favorite estimated against the Colts when they go to Indy. They'll be a 2.5 point favorite at home against the Bears, and they'll be a 2.5 point favorite against Seattle. And that game's also at Levi's Stadium. So the Niners are favored in their final 4 games. So can they run the table? I would say they probably could. Niners Wire had a wild trade suggestion today. They're suggesting in the offseason the Niners should trade Brandon Ayuk and their 2026 first and third round picks and their 27 second round pick, trade all of that to the Vikings for Justin Jefferson. And it's one of those trades that, a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, do that. But you know what? I would push back and say no more shortcuts, no more parlaying of assets into one asset. We'll trade a bunch of assets all for Trey Lance. How'd that work? Well, we won't sign a bunch of free agents. We'll sign one big free agent, Javon Hargrave. How did that work? If you get the right guy, it works. If you don't get the right guy, it doesn't work. I don't think I would want to trade a first, a second, and a third round pick plus Ayuk for Jefferson. And I understand people would say, well, Ayuk's damaged goods, and you've missed on first and second and third round picks often. And I get it. I understand that. But I just think that it's football and you need depth. And I wouldn't trade a first, a second, a third, and Ayuk all for Jefferson, even though I like Jefferson. I think Jefferson's a really good player. Why are the Niners 9-4? One of the reasons I'll tell you is special teams, and their coverage units and their return units are doing a nice job. The 49ers average starting field position is 32.9 yard line. That would be the second best mark in football in the last 10 seasons. The best starting position for drives was the Buffalo Bills last year. Their average drive began at the 33.3 yard line. So, yeah, I mean, how good has Sky Moore been? How good has Brian Robinson been? The Niners return units are producing. And the Niners are, and it's giving the 49er offense much better field position than they're used to. I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to win the Coach of the Year. He's 30-1 to win it. There's a bunch of candidates in front of him. The only two 49er coaches who have ever won the AP NFL Coach of the Year, it's happened twice. Jim Harbaugh in 2011 and Bill Walsh way back in 1981. So if you come out of nowhere, and have great success in that first year, I think that's the moral of the story. That's when you're going to win it. You're not going to win it after you're an established guy. Eric Kendricks, it was announced today that he's going to be rocking number 43. So if you want to buy your Eric Kendricks jersey, buy number 43. How good has Diamador Lenore been this year? Well, as far as total points saved among cornerbacks and safeties, only Nahshon Wright of the Bears has more total points saved than Demo. Demo's got 43 points saved, Nahshon Wright with 45. So Demo's been quietly just having a very, very good year. And he's just a hell of a player. I mean, it's just simple as that. He's just one of those underrated players that he's just really, really good. Fred Warner had a great quote today about Brock Purdy. He says, I think the common denominator when it comes to an outstanding quarterback or player in general is that competitive fire. When things get on a line, when things get out of line, regardless if it's at practice or in a game, there's just that dog in you that comes out, and Brock Purdy has that through and through. I remember back when he was a rookie, he's playing on the scout team against us, and I'm barking at him, I'm giving it to him, and he's giving it right back. I was like, oh snap, this is Mr. Irrelevant. This is the last pick in the draft. He's over with that no look. He's over that with the no look passes. He's doing this boop boop boop, and now you see him out there on Sundays Dougieing on them folks. Like, come on now, you have a certain swagger. You have to have a certain swagger, a certain confidence about you. That's what the team rallies around. It's not about the rah-rah speeches. Speeches are great if given by somebody that has a conviction to give them. But at the end of the day, players rally around confident individuals who are competitive in what they do. It's pretty telling quote from Fred Warner. Remember that one next time people were like trying to diminish Purdy. He's not this, he's not that. Really, the leader of the defense says this guy's one competitive SOB. George Kittle is always good, but he has been even better since coming off the IR. He came off the IR against the Falcons. His 7 games since are against the Falcons. He had 2 targets, no catches. But against Houston, 5 targets, 4 catches, 43 yards and a touchdown. Against the Giants, 4 targets, caught all 4 of them for 32 yards. Against the Rams, 9 targets, caught all of them for 84 yards and a touchdown. Against Arizona, he was targeted 6 times, caught all 6 targets, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. Against Carolina, targeted 10 times. He had 6 catches for 78 yards. And then against Cleveland, targeted 5 times, and he had 4 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown. So the guy's had now, 7 touchdowns in let's see, he's played 7 games. He's had 6 touchdowns since he's been back, or 7 touchdowns. No, actually, me scratch that. It's actually 4 touchdowns in the 7 games since he's been back. But he's been very, very productive ever since he came back. So that's good to see. By the way, the 49ers official page on X has Brock Purdy doing the Dougie as their profile picture. So they are really leaning into it. As far as what's an area where the Niners are really improved from last year, penalties. Niners had 111 penalties in 2024. They lost a net of 32 yards, but they were dead last in penalties that benefited them with only 79. The next closest team had 92. And it's been a different story this year. Through 13 games, the 49ers have had a much different penalty situation than they had a year ago. And it's to me, it's obviously a huge impact. Niners have had 67 penalties against them this year, which is 4th fewest in the NFL. They'd have to average double-digit penalties per game to match last year's total. On the flip side, they're up to 13th in penalties that have benefited them this season at 82. So that's led to a positive outcome of 69 yards. Their pre-snap penalties have been roughly cut in half. They had 46 last year, and that number is down to 24 so far this year. Last year, the Niners were heavily penalized, whether they were at home or on the road. This year, most of their issues have happened on the road. The 49ers have been penalized 45 times on the road compared to only 22 at home. So interesting. As far as the least penalized playoff contenders, the Rams have the least penalties with 52. Then the Bucs with 65. Then the Niners with 67. As far as NFC playoff teams benefiting the most from penalties, getting the most calls, Cowboys 102, Rams 92, Seahawks 92, Niners 82. Overall net yardage from penalties, Rams have the most, 302. Wow, it's a huge number. Seahawks 133, number 2, Cowboys 128, number 3, Bucs 117, number 4, Niners at 69, number 5 overall. So a lot of interesting stuff today. Not a big news day because it is a bye week, but definitely a number of interesting little nuggets there. So hope you enjoyed that. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Plank Oakland for sponsoring this video, and thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.